Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. We're 97 days out from the midterms. There are signs the Republican Party is in real trouble, and it's getting worse over the last week. Donald Trump is now, we can say pretty confidently, the least popular he's ever been, and that includes after January 6th. He is flailing amidst a cost of living crisis and endless war in Iran that voters despise and shows no signs of stopping. Today, a new Quinnipiac poll has his approval rating at 32%, freezing temperature. That comes on the heels of a CNN poll that had him at 34%. In that new Quinnipiac poll, this is really notable, just 29% of voters think Trump is focused enough on the right issues. CNN has the same number at 27%. I mean, this is about as low as it gets in polling. I mean, keep in mind, Herbert Hoover won 40% of the vote in 1932, right? These kinds of polling numbers are approaching George W. Bush in 2008. This is usually when the wheels start coming off the whole political project. And if you're watching the news, as I imagine you are, none of this is that surprising. I mean, Trump just manifestly couldn't care less about what people care about. He keeps telling voters he thinks affordability is a hoax. He very obviously just cares about enriching himself and his family. And crucially, all his little pet projects, his little redecorating things he's doing, the ballroom, the reflecting pool, putting gold up everywhere, putting letters up. And this lack of consideration for the actual real problems affecting Americans isn't just Donald Trump. It's shared by the rest of the Republican Party in Washington that he has remade in his image. And so to address all of this, Senate Republicans spent the day laser focused on, you guessed it, Anthony Fauci. Remember Anthony Fauci? You probably haven't thought a lot about him in about half a decade, but Republicans in this summer, in the year of our Lord, 2026, are still fixated on public health recommendations from the COVID-19 pandemic. They have spent the day clip farming outrage to play 24 hours a day on Fox News and to circulate on Elon Musk's Twitter. And if you don't spend a lot of time watching Fox or scrolling Twitter, you're probably a bit confused. But it is not an understatement to say that right-wing cranks there are still obsessed with Fauci and relitigating 2020, which is why today's hearing was a kind of bizarre show trial.
The committee will have to consider after this hearing what appropriate action should be taken against you for the failure to testify after being directed to do so. It's against the law to obstruct an investigation of Congress. There will be repercussions.
Let's just get one thing straight. You don't have any rights under the Fifth Amendment because you've been pardoned, as you very well know. You know that. Your lawyers sitting behind you now shifting nervously in their chairs. They know it. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about the law. This is about contempt. Contempt for this body and contempt for the American people.
You will be getting a letter today asking for a volunteer transcribed interview. So I'd be asking, will you comply or will I have to subpoena you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Expect a subpoena.
It went on like that forever. The Republicans are just completely lost in the weeds, pursuing revenge against Trump's critics like Fauci. And make no mistake, of course, the big guy, the boss, was happy to see it.
Well, I watched the whole thing today, but more importantly, I was a part of the whole Fauci. I inherited Fauci. He was here from the 1980s, so I had him for a period of time. And I disagreed with him on a lot. I would have had to close down the whole country if I listened to him. Fauci wanted to have nobody wearing masks, if you remember, and then everybody had to wear 5 masks, as many masks as you could get. I mean, he made a lot of mistakes. And he wasn't a big factor for me. He was a very big factor for Biden. COVID was a disaster, but Fauci did not help.
Important point there from Trump, right? Which is that he was the president, not Anthony Fauci. Whatever happened in COVID policy, it was Donald Trump who was making the calls, not Anthony Fauci. He was offering advice. Whatever you think about COVID and the response, I think it was pretty terrible by the president, but the president was responsible. Today, Republicans are making hay of the fact that Fauci repeatedly invoked the Fifth Amendment. And that kind of gives the whole game away here, because everybody understands these sham hearings are the consolation prize for a lack of a sham trial. Remember, President Biden pardoned Fauci before leaving office, not because he thought the public health expert actually committed any crimes, but because he knew that he would be subject to these bad faith attacks and weaponization of the system. If he had not been pardoned, Fauci would probably be facing criminal charges right now. For what exactly? Who can say? This administration and its resolutely corrupt Department of Justice would have cooked up something against him, just like it did against Trump's former FBI director, James Comey. Comey is currently facing criminal charges, the second round of charges, the first were dismissed. These charges of threatening the president of the United States for this lone picture of seashell art arranged to spell 8647. Today, we have new insights into the lengths Trump's prosecutors went to bring these bogus charges. We now know, thanks to legal documents obtained by Comey's legal team, that even some of Trump's own people understood this was really, really a bad idea. Per the documents, the Secret Service, listen to this, surveilled Comey's cell phone to track his location in real time and did so without a warrant. One mid-level Secret Service agent said, and I quote, "It was a bad idea to declare an exigency exemption. We needed to believe there is an imminent threat to life or limb. At that time, we did not believe that anyone's life was in immediate danger, and legally it was a bad idea to ping the phone." Meaning, when they saw the image posted, they started to surveil his phone without a warrant because what? James Comey, having posted that, was going to kill the president? As MS Now's Carol Leonnig reports, that agent was not alone in their assessment. At Secret Service headquarters, some top officials agreed with the mid-level supervisor's concern this step was not a good idea. Using emergency powers to track Comey's phone, some of them argued, was a terrible idea, could come back to haunt them. They did it anyway. Even though it was obvious that Comey, on vacation with his wife, was not using shell art to make an imminent threat against the president, no one's stupid enough to believe that. The president at the time was traveling internationally on Air Force One. Comey was on a beach on vacation. But that's not all, right? They still had to make this case, this ridiculous case, that Comey's message, that his image he posted publicly, 8647 or Nix Trump, was somehow a threat at all. And this is where we truly enter Cohn Brothers territory. Because per those same documents, the FBI actually reached out, ready for this, to a Trump-friendly former mobster to help them build their case against Comey. Sammy the Bull Gravano. Remember him? One-time underboss in the Gambino crime family, the guy who confessed to a role in 19 murders and who cooperated during Comey's prosecution of the Gambinos back in the 1990s. They go to Gravano because they need evidence that 8647 means a threat, that you want to kill the guy. And so during an in-person interview, they sit Sammy the Bull Gravano down, which lasted 25 minutes. Gravano said that 86 generally means to get rid of, and to him as a gangster, it meant to kill. Well, yeah, to Sammy Bull Gravano. If Sammy the Bull says it, right? I mean, a lot of things probably sound like murder threats to Sammy the Bull Gravano. What are we doing here? I mean, it's comical, but it's monstrous. And this is the caliber of argument we're dealing with. And look, I'm not a lawyer. It seems unlikely to me these ridiculous charges will stick. But that's not really the point, right? Show trials all around. Capitol Hill, the DOJ. That's what this second term's about, trying to harass, intimidate anyone who dares criticize him, extract his petty revenge. That's not just what Trump is focused on. The whole Republican Party, all of them, that's what their leader is focused on right now. There's a war going on, for God's sakes. We're conducting strikes tonight on Iran. And that's why I think a supermajority of Americans think Donald Trump and the Republican Party are focused on the wrong issues ahead of Election Day.